Hello, Dogzilla Monster up in Seattle, a.k.a. Stingray, a.k.a. I won't say his real name. Hello, Andrew Pindar in the UK, and others signing on. Wet Hog, yeah, we got a couple minutes late start. And I apologize for that, but we appreciate you all joining us for what should be a very interesting show. Gordon Smith's in cold, wet Denmark, and others signing on. Thank you for joining us. Fog Machine, we still don't know who Fog Machine is. They're staying safe by going sailing. I hope so. San Francisco is now COVID purple. It is indeed. We know that Fog Machine is here in the Bay Area. We got Ryan Breymaier. I've recorded a segment with him. We've got a lot of guys on here and gals. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. We'll be with you in a moment.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hard to believe it's December. December 1st.
Yeah.
And we've been at this lockdown now for 9 months, since early March, right?
Yes.
It's unbelievable. Live from Studio B at the Beach Street Yacht Club in San Francisco, it's TFE Live, our show number 354 for the 1st of December, 2020. Thank you for joining us, and thank you to my co-host, supervising producer, landlady, and Commodore of the Beach Street Yacht Club, Julia.
Hello.
Vedekint, who is here with us as usual. I've had a busy morning. I got up before breakfast, as my dad used to say, still does say, presumably, and recorded a long segment, a 38-minute segment with Ryan Braymeyer, who is one of the technical directors of Boris Herman's Vendee Globe team. He's an American living in France, and he had a lot of inside scoop, and I'm going to play that interview in a moment. But I think you'll find it compelling. I learned a lot about what's going on with the race, not only the rescue. Viva la Com! I mean, what a fantastic new piece of news that was last night when we heard that
absolutely.
Jean Lacombe had rescued in the middle of the night, in the dark of night. Bloody hell. But we were a little worried there for a while because there was not much communication. In fact, very little communication coming off the boat in the very few seconds that I don't want to get ahead of myself. We'll do that long interview. I said 38-minute interview this morning, earlier today. Ryan Breymaier, in Antibes, and we'll get to that in a sec. Julie, in the meantime, you like to say?
Yes, this is a delightful time to like, share, and subscribe. And subscribe doesn't cost you any money, but it'll let you know anytime we go on the air.
And it's also Giving Tuesday, so if anybody wants to send us a check or make a monthly contribution, comments always welcome, and even in replay. But if you want to send us a check or join us in support via Patreon, become a patron via Patreon on patreon.com/join/sailing illustrated. No better day than today, Giving Tuesday of the least here. Is that world? That's just in the States, I guess.
I don't know. I think
you're supposed to know these things.
I think it's just in the States.
I think it is too. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. There is a long list of people on here already. Julie, shall we say hi to some of these folks? I mentioned in the countdown we have Clark Chapin has now joined us. Fog Machine, great handle. We still don't know who he is. Pindar, we mentioned. Carlos Aviz from Brazil. Flying Hulls, there's a new name. Bill Parker, that's Bill Parker in Cincinnati. Daniel Grun, hello, Daniel. Thanks for finding us again. Kealoha 5 is saying hi to Ryan, and Ryan is not live with us, but he will be. As I say, I recorded that segment earlier today, a few hours ago. Resolution is good from here. Looks fine to me. My resolution is all good. Training to win. That's Emmett in the UK. John, hello to you. Gordon Smith. Value Networking, and Bernie Stegmaier. Hello, Bernie.
Oh, look at that.
He's one of the guys who is an IT, he's the dean of yachting, or has been for years, in Switzerland.
Yes.
Exactly. terrific guy. And he was a pioneer of this whole online internet stuff. He convinced Paul Henderson way back in the early 90s that what was then IYRU should go online and have a website and have email. My God, this whole radical idea of
Yeah.
email. So, Bernie, nice to see you on here. He was also encouraging us to get from Facebook over to YouTube, which, of course, we have
Now we have.
done.
And one day we'll learn to use it.
Pindar Che, yeah, right. And it's slowly but surely I'm learning a little bit. Ryman down in Cape Town. Wet Hog from funny. My Patreon notice came today, so I gave on Giving Tuesday. Trying to win. I must admit, I do prefer it when people are on with their real names. Yeah, runs for cover. That's one of the. You can change. You can sign up and have your own name here in the commenting. I believe on YouTube. I'm back. I'm out of Facebook jail, by the way.
Congratulations.
So we could go back to running the show on Facebook as well. Either or both.
Ideally, we do both.
And we're working on that. We're working on a lot of things. But let's get into this Vendee Globe thing because you have to start right out with a Bravo Zulu to Jean Lecombe and Kevin Escoffier. Jean Lecombe, of course, who rescued Kevin in this race. I mean, it was all I can say is that Bravo Zulu. Viva Lecombe, viva Jean. And the details, of course, we've been following the race since it started 3 weeks ago Sunday, and the race started up in France and the leaders are now past the Cape of Good Hope and in the roaring 40s and in the headed east. They'll pass Cape Lewin in Australia, fall off the map, and come back on the 23rd. Oh, I don't know, 23rd. We're in day 23 now. Come back onto the map, past Cape Horn there. I've got a couple arrows to help all of us understand, and then back up to France to the finish line, Les Sables d'Olonne, and that record is 74 days. Here is France 24, a global television network that streams a lot of their stuff on YouTube, thank goodness, with their report of this dramatic last couple days in the race.
5-meter swells and a third of the way through the most grueling sailing race around the world, the Vendee Globe. The 2020-21 edition has already thrown up some dramatic twists, with early race favourites being forced to return to port or abandon the race altogether. And Tuesday produced one of the most dramatic days yet. As the skippers began to curl around South Africa's Cape of Good Hope, disaster struck for Frenchman Kevin Escoffier and his PRB boat.
En 4 secondes, le bateau il a planté, l'étrave elle s'est repliée à 90, j'ai mis la tête dans le cockpit, il y a une vague, j'ai eu le temps d'envoyer un texto, la vague après elle a tout fait chanter l'électronique et tout. Non mais c'est un truc de barjo.
In the desolate waters of the southern Atlantic, the only available help came in the form of a fellow race rival, Jean Lecombe, who found Escoffier floating away in a life raft. The confirmed 1 a.m. rescue was far from an easy pickup.
Je reviens, si tu veux, là où j'avais quitté, et personne. Oh là là là. Bon, je me dis, bon, allez, je suis revenu au moins 5-6 fois. 30 de nœuds, si tu veux, c'est pas. La mer qu'il y avait, c'était pas fastoche pour manœuvrer.
Escoffier was in third place and surging along at the time he triggered his distress beacon. The 40-year-old was sailing a new style of flying boat which lifts out of the water on a foil in high winds, making them more prone to damage. But despite the boat's failures, there was only huge relief for Escoffier at avoiding a potentially fatal situation.
J'ai pas de regret, quoi. Putain, j'ai renforcé le bateau tout ce que j'ai pu.
Kevin, tout va bien, zen.
Ouais, mais bon.
Eh oui, je sais, mais c'est bon.
Mais j'ai pas, franchement, j'ai zéro regret.
The race, led by Apivia's Charlie Dalin, now continues into its 23rd straight day as skippers head into the warmer waters of the Indian Ocean.
Okay, that's the latest from France 24 television. And to recap all of it, Kevin Escoffier on his boat PRB, which he's a bit snake bit. That sponsor, that boat, I hate to say it, but not that boat, but PRB's has a bit of a checkered past in previous racing and Mocha Racing. But needless to say, it was a great relief for all of us when we heard last night that Escoffier had been rescued after PRB broke up and sank. And Jean Lecomte did the deed. So again, bravo Zulu to both of them. And we're just obviously pleased as punch. Here is an interview I did earlier this morning with our Fozy Ryan Breymaier, who was originally from Annapolis and lived back and forth in Long Beach, but he lives in France now on TV. He's an expert on all of this and shed a lot of light. It's a 38-minute interview, which I will not interrupt here in the studio, but just run it now. I hope you enjoy, because there's a lot. It's a compelling. Well, you be the judge. There's a lot of new and cool information in this interview. Delighted to have Ryan Breymaier with us, standing by at his home in Antibes, live via Skype. And Ryan, tell us before we get into this dramatic rescue in the middle of your night and our late afternoon on Monday. Viva la Cama! What fantastic news that Kevin Escoffier has been rescued. But tell us, before we get into all that, what have you been doing in the current edition of the Vendee Globe?
Well, Tom, thanks for having me here today. It's great to be on with you. This year, I have spent with my good friend Boris Herman, getting him ready for the Vendee Globe, for his life's dream, as it were. And I've basically been helping him in the sort of design direction of his boat, helping make choices about what foils to put in and how to do that job. And then once all of the clean office work was done, actually getting stuck into it and helping get all the systems in place and get all the composites sorted out and everything. So I've been basically a part of his shore team, both on the office side and also on the hands-on work side, up until September of this year. And then I went back for a couple of days for the start, and that's it. Now I'm just armchair sailing like the rest of us.
So sort of a design consultant, a campaign consultant, really. Is that right? Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, that's what I do for him a lot. I help him with the decision making about various aspects of the boat and the best way from point A to point B in terms of performance and in terms of economics and time frame and all the rest of it. So yeah, I mean, I've been around the IMOCA class for a very long time, so all these kind of things are a bit second nature to me at this point.
That's Boris Herman, who's sailing for the Yacht Club de Monaco. On the name of the boat is what? Sea Explorer?
Yeah, Sea Explorer is the name of the sponsor. The sponsor is actually Kuehne + Nagel, which is a shipping / logistics company, and Sea Explorer is their online portal that they use to connect big companies like Nike and Apple to do carbon neutral shipping with other big companies like Maersk or CMG, CMA, and these kind of guys.
Excellent. Well, let's get to the dramatic rescue that has taken place, and then ask for your views, because there's been a fair bit of attrition in this race already. It's not even, a third of the way through it. Let me read, Ryan, from the release that's just come out from the Vendee Globe headquarters, and some quotes from both, from Kevin Escoffier and Jean Lecomte. The damage, he says, quote, "It's unbelievable what happened. The boat folded up on a wave at 27 knots. I heard a bang, but to be honest, I didn't need to hear that to know what had happened. I looked at the bow. It was 90 degrees. In a few seconds, there was water everywhere. The stern was underwater. The bow was pointing up to the sky. The boat split in half in front of the mast bulkhead. It was as if she folded up. I promise, I'm not exaggerating. There was an angle of 90 degrees between the stern and the bow." What's your reaction to that?
The reaction to that is that it's mind-boggling. It really is to be in a position where that boat's been around a very long time and has been being sailed hard the whole time, and to have it just explode like that, running into a wave, is an amazing thing. There's no doubt about it. Saying that, in the last Vendee Globe, Thomas Royan had to stop in New Zealand with his boat trying to fold up. The speculation was that he hit a whale, though, not just ran into a wave. So it's an amazing thing, and it's a very lucky thing for him that he he managed to escape from that whole situation with his life. That's for sure.
Any insight as to whether it was just structural, it just came apart structurally, or that he hit something? Have you heard anything on that front?
The sort of perspective that he has given in his interviews in French is that it was not that he ran into anything; it was that he nosedived into the back of the wave in front, and that was the end of it. You know, when you get down to the Southern Ocean, the water is denser because it's colder, and the waves were quite big in relation to the amount of wind that they had, 4-meter waves and only 30 knots of breeze. With waves that were left over from the low going past. So it's not inconceivable that he ran into the back of the wave a lot harder than he would have when he was out in training ahead of that, and also during the rest of the race, because he wouldn't have been able to. The rest of the race thus far hasn't been a race where they've sailed a lot of VMG downwind and were able to go quite quickly. He said he was doing 27 knots when he ran into the wave in front, which they haven't really had the opportunity to do during the race thus far.
Well, let me read some more of the release and the quotes. Mayday is the next paragraph. He said, quote, "I didn't have time to do anything. I just had time to send a message to my team. I'm sinking. I'm not joking. Mayday. Between the moment when I was out on deck trimming the sails and when I found myself in my survival suit, barely 2 minutes had passed. It all happened extremely quickly."
Yeah, these guys have all got a Certus satellite communications dome, and those guys are providing data for the fleet. And one thing that has allowed WhatsApp communication basically full time for the skippers with their shore teams. Most of them have the Certus connected at all times, and they're WhatsApping with the teams about issues they might have or whatever. Basically, it's just another way of being more connected in our already very connected society. And so luckily Kevin's communications equipment was on, and he was able to send that text, because a lot of times what happens is that the EPIRB gets wet and it goes off, and then a few hours later it all gets toned down because they realize that there's nothing going wrong. And yeah, the French translation of that message was exactly that. I'm sinking, c'est pas une connerie, which means this is absolutely not a joke, and Mayday, which means help me, help me, which is a chilling thing to hear on your WhatsApp from somebody who's out in the Southern Ocean, for sure. And
they're monitoring that communication at the other end, at the team base, presumably in the Sable d'Olonne. I mean, real time, nonstop, right? Somebody's watching all the time.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been going to Le Sable d'Olonne. It would have been going to the telephone of his boat captain, for example.
Really?
Direct private communication. Yeah, I mean and in fact, like for Boris's team, we have our group WhatsApp, and we have people from the organization on that, because they want to monitor to make sure that there's no performance data changing hands, there's no weather routing happening, which is all very reasonable given the rules of the race. And so if he sent it to the boat group, that means that it would have been the boat captain, probably the sponsor, the race direction. Everybody would have gotten the message immediately. And then to see the EPIRB go off a few seconds later, it's pretty obvious that there's a major, major problem.
Well, he went on to say, in organizing my survival, he said, quote, "I came out of the boat and put on my survival suit. I could see smoke. The electronics were burning. Everything went off. My only reflex was to grab my telephone and to send the message and pick up the survival suit, which I never stow away. I wanted to pick up the grab bag, but I couldn't get to it with the water rising. I grabbed the life raft at the stern. Once open, I couldn't get into it as it was 3 meters under the water. The water was up to the door in the cockpit."
When that's not quite the translation. I saw an interview with him, and he said that in fact he went out into the cockpit, which in PRB has a closed transom, so the cockpit is like a well in the middle of the boat covered with the roof, and he got into his survival suit and went out to get the life raft ready because he knew there was a major problem. he had to actually get the life raft, which was already underwater, and cut its lashings underwater. He says, and then what happened is he had the life raft in his hands, picking it up at the same time that a wave washed over the back of the boat, broke on the back of the boat, collected him and the life raft, and washed him out of the boat. Luckily, he managed to keep a hold of the life raft and inflate it and get into it without it getting away from him, which is that is some craziness. It really is. You know, you can imagine 30 knots of breeze and 4-meter waves is 13.5-foot waves. So just being thrashed around by those waves and managing to hold on to the life raft, which weighs 65 or 70 pounds, and inflate it, still holding on to it. I mean, he obviously was in fear for his life, so he was able to do a lot of things which are pretty difficult to imagine. But
to say nothing of being in the dark of night.
To say nothing. Well, it was in the evening. It wasn't the dark of night when this all happened to him. It was
dusk.
Late afternoon. Yeah.
Well, he went on to say, jumping in the life raft, I quote, I would have liked to have stayed a bit longer on board, but I could see it was all happening quickly, and a big breaker came, and I was in the water with the life raft. At that point, I was not feeling very confident. Being in a raft in 35 knots of wind is not reassuring. I was only reassured when I saw Jean Lecombe, of course. But the problem was to find a way to get on board with him. We said a few words. It was a real battlefield out on the water. He was forced to move away, but I could see he remained close by. I stayed in the raft until early this, meaning Tuesday morning.
Yeah, absolutely. He said that he was well, what happened is that Jean Lecombe had motor problems because people aren't really using the motor very much anymore. We have hydro generators or solar panels which charge the batteries, and so the motor gets started rarely at this point. And for Jean, it probably hadn't been started since almost the beginning of the race. And so, yeah, when he tried to start it, there was an issue. Whether that issue was really with the motor or whether he had rope in the propeller, who knows? Anyway, as he sailed past Kevin, he said, I'm here. We've got to wait, though, because the conditions are too nasty. I'm going to try to come back to you with the motor. But, then he had trouble. And so I think the next part of the story is interesting, too. Kevin then found himself in a situation where he knew that there was help around him. And he said to himself, don't panic. Just be calm, and this will all resolve itself. Conditions are getting better. You might be in the raft all night, but at least you know that in the morning, at least Jean is there, if not more boats. And so you're going to survive one night in a life raft, basically.
And of course, the race direction rerouted 3 other boats in addition to Jean Lecombe, right? And those 3 were?
Yeah. It was Boris Herman, Yannick Besteven, and Sebastian Simon. All the boats that were basically any boat that was upwind of him within any reasonable distance got routed to him, just because they were very confident in the very beginning that Jean was just going to pick him up and that was going to be the end of it. But when Jean didn't get him on the first try, they knew then that they needed to have plenty of people in the zone in order to make sure that he wasn't lost, that there was boats all around so someone would be able to find him hours later when conditions had moderated and there was daylight again, basically.
Do you know when? Well, first of all, did any of the other 3 get there in time to really be of assistance, or had the recovery, the rescue by Jean Lecombe already taken place before the other 3 got there?
Boris, for example, was I'm not sure if he was the first or the second of those 3 boats who was there, but he did a search pattern that they asked him to for an hour. And then at that stage was told, oh, Jean's got him, and that was 3:20 in the morning, French time. So, in the Southern Ocean, it's never quite dark and it's never quite light, and that's the summer down there, the Antarctic summer. So, the days are very, very long and the nights are very, very short. So,
well, did the full moon help? There was also a full moon, or is a full moon.
Yeah, that would have helped, and as well at 3:20 in the morning, it would have already been starting to get light again. It's very similar to being in Finland or in the north of Canada or somewhere like that, where there's always light.
Yeah, he said, quote, I didn't know whether the weather would ease enough to carry out a maneuver. he, meaning Jean Lecomte, was only 2 meters from me. He sent me a line, but it was difficult to stop the boat. In the end, I managed to reach some tubing and lift myself aboard. The sea was still heavy with 3.5 meter waves. It is hard in such conditions to climb aboard a 60-foot boat, particularly as it is hard in the survival suit. It's lucky I'm in good shape physically, as I can promise you it is not easy.
Yeah, so about the survival suit, he said that he had so little time that he put his survival suit on over top of his foul weather gear, just dragged it on over everything he was wearing because he knew he was in trouble. And then, yeah, so Jean got to weather of him and tried to drift down on top of the raft so that the raft would be next to the boat to leeward of it, in which case Kevin could climb up over the lifelines and get on because the IMOCAs are very low to the water, so it would have been easy for him to get on at that stage. And they both knew what he was attempting. At the last second, he was going a bit too quick forward, and so he ended up actually driving past him without actually coming down on top of him. And he saw that was happening and managed to throw it's basically like a life sling, you know, it's one that's made in Brittany. It's like a pool noodle with a big piece of webbing in it and 2 big carabiners attached to a rope. And so he said that he managed to catch that, and they got to the length of it. And Jean basically at that point had the motor in full reverse, trying not to drift downwind away from the life raft, and at the same time both of them pulling from both ends to shorten up the distance between the raft and the boat. He said at the very end, when they were quite close, he said that as the stern of the IMOCA would lift up as waves went underneath of it, he said he could see the propeller coming out of the water and turning a couple of meters away from him. And he said basically as soon as I got close enough and we had the rope as short as we dared to do it, he says he basically jumped from the raft and caught the bars on the back of the boat that connect the tillers and the rudders, managed to grab one of them with Jean pulling on his rope, obviously, and then climb up over the back of the boat. That boat, Hubert, has got an open transom with plenty of space to get onto the back of the boat. So that's pretty lucky, because if it had been PRB, he would have had to go up a 3-foot transom, basically, which wouldn't have been nearly as easy. So yeah, it's all very lucky, and it's lucky because Jean is one of the most experienced guys out there and has been sailing IMOCAs for more than 20 years and knows exactly what he's doing and how to handle the boat. And
is he the oldest gentleman in the fleet? He's 61, I think, from memory.
Yeah, 61, and by far the oldest guy in the fleet. And, you know, a sad state of affairs in the whole situation. Luckily, he rescued him, but Jean was having the race of his life, you know, before this all happened. So,
well, they said here, I'm reading some more from this release. Aboard, yes, we can. Of course, that's the name of Jean Lecomte's boat. When I found myself on board with Jean, we hugged each other. He said to me, quote, Scheiße in the German word, "You're aboard. That was tricky," unquote. I replied, quote, "I have spoilt your race." "You were doing so well," he replied. "That doesn't matter. Last time it was me who upset Vincent's race." And that, of course, was
Vincent Rieu in the 2008 Vendee Globe, rescuing Jean Lecomte after the keel fell off of his boat in that era. And Vincent Rieu obviously was the PRB skipper at the time. PRB has a long, long history in the IMOCA class and in these around the world races. Back to many, many years ago when Isabelle Tissier lost the roof of her IMOCA 60 in the Southern Ocean, she was sponsored by PRB at the time as well. So there's been quite a lot of stories around PRB over all these years.
Well, there's a new one now. What's next? Are they headed to Cape Town, is what I read this morning?
That was not clear in the interview that I saw today. It actually sounded more like the same French military boat which patrols the Kerguelen Islands that got all that amazing footage of Banque Populaire and Hugo Boss last time is down there on patrol now. And the consideration was probably that rather than ruin John's race completely, Kevin will stay on board for the next week and be picked up by a Zodiac off of that frigate as they pass the Kerguelen Islands. Which
how far are they? Because they're well south and currently west of Cape Town by hundreds of miles, right?
Yeah, they were outside of helicopter range, so they had to have been at least 300 miles south of Cape Town. I think it was 350 or 400 miles south of Cape Town right now. When the rescue happened, it was basically dead south of Cape Town. And so, yeah, to get to the Kerguelens, they were estimating being there on December 7th, so 6 more days.
So he'll stay aboard for that period, then presumably transfer to the French warship, the frigate. And then Jean will continue, and the boats that, including Jean, of course, and the other 3 boats, Boris Herman, who is with whose team you are as a design consultant, they will all get redress of some sort, won't they?
Yeah, absolutely, they all will. And it's a shame, redress is great and all, but you can't actually imagine what the proper amount of time is to give to somebody in that respect. And it's hard to imagine what the impact on somebody's race is, because, in stopping for those hours, now they find themselves much further away from the strong winds, where Linked Out and Apivia are still blasting along in the strong winds on that low pressure system. Everybody else has now been basically stopped in the light winds behind it, which means that there's absolutely no way that anyone will catch up unless they break, which means they've got a race-winning break ahead of them now that they can do nothing about. And so, redress, no matter what it is not, it doesn't. Nobody would like to have redress, but everyone's happy to have been able to help as well. So
exactly. I mean, they can't just say, well, the time between when you stopped and when you restarted was X. They're going to have to make some other kind of adjustment, look at the weather and so on, right?
Yes and no. I mean, it will be interesting because, let's face it, it gets to be a little bit of a parade. If one person gets ahead on a weather system compared to the other guys, like Charlie Dallin right now is ahead on the system. And so he's going to have that elastic the rest of the way around the world. And then Linked Out is, just that much further behind. But, the parade is the parade almost already. And so barring any sort of major issues, you would imagine that the redress will have them quite close to the positions where they were when it all happened, at least in the short term. Do
you want to talk about and speculate at all, or maybe it's an unfair question, but there's been a lot of attrition already in this race, and of course we've been following Boris Herman. He's still good and strong, it looks like. We've been following Samantha Davis, but we've also been following Alex Thompson, and of course he's had to drop out now in Hugo Boss. Are these boats not up to the task, or has something else going on, like that early storm right after the start?
Yeah, there are so many factors associated with the whole thing. There's and it's hard to say exactly what the problem is for Alex. I mean, bad luck, no luck at all. He doesn't have the best of luck, that's for sure. But heading straight through a low with 60 knots of breeze in it is definitely not on everybody's list of moves that are going to long term be suitable for the health of your boat. This tropical storm Theta they went through at the very beginning of the race. Saying that, he sailed many, many, many miles after that without any trouble. But did that weaken the structure of the boat when it happened? And he's just had easy enough conditions since then that it didn't matter. Is the boat just built too lightly in an attempt to keep it light while being a foiling boat? There could be any number of questions, but the fact of the matter is that the race has lost a very good competitor and one of the only properly funded international competitors in the race, and it's a poor race for it.
Good point. And he's such a great. Our
just
people
sad.
love him. You've been on the show before. It's been what, a year? It was in. Was it November?
Yep, I think so. Yeah.
November, almost a year ago, a little more than a year ago. And it's great to have you back on. If you're just joining us, we've got from Antibes. I've recorded this just a few hours before today's show, live via Skype from Antibes. We've got Ryan Breymaier, who is arguably the most experienced American these days in this kind of single-handed offshore racing and other types of offshore racing. He's become a bit of our guru here on TFE Live for this sort of racing. Unfortunately, did not get an American team organized this time, but Alex Thompson, of course, who's a Brit, sailing for Hugo Boss, the big German clothier, what was a great, as are you, a great ambassador for the sport. Sad loss out of the race.
It is, and Alex has been at this for a very long time. He's a very good competitor. He's a perfect spokesman for the brand. He's the example in sailing of how to do a sailing sponsorship correctly. You can't take anything away from him in any aspect of his campaigns. And it's just a shame. I know Alex very well personally. We've spent time together. I've replaced him for racing in the past when his wife was going to have a baby. So we have a very good connection and sort of friendship. And it just breaks my heart to see him in a position where the boat has let him down so badly, only a third of the way around the world. And
yeah, you did a transatlantic race filled in for him when his wife was expecting at the late in the pregnancy.
Exactly. Yep. In 2015, we did the New York to Barcelona. Pepe Ribes and I, which we won on the Hugo Boss. I don't know what number they were calling it, Hugo Boss, but but yeah, it was a good race, and it was great of Alex to ask me to do that, and also nice that he had that confidence in me that I would get it done for him. And it's as I say, it's a sad loss for the race, as much as it is a sad loss for his team. And we work so hard all year long and not only for 1 year, but for years and years and years. And the only buzzword is we've got to get the thing around the world. We with Boris's boat, when we put the foils in, for example, we went out sailing for 2 days, and we came back in and we put the boat on the dock, and we said we're stopping for a week because we need to add more structure into the back end of the boat. We knew it after sailing just for 2 days, without even talking to the architects, that we needed reinforcement in the big panels in the transom where nobody ever expected to be slamming. But when the boats fly, it's the last meter or 2 meters of the boat that slams. And so, we put the boat on the dock and we added 35 or 40 kilos more carbon and foam into the back of the boat to make it reliable. And we said to ourselves, well, that's those stringers in the back are the difference between finishing the Vendee Globe in Australia and finishing in France where you belong, And this kind of thing happens all the time, and everybody is just trying their best to make sure that the boat is strong enough to get around the world. And the program is a tiny bit different for Alex because he sailed around the world multiple times, and this time was really, this is my last time doing this, and I've got to win it. And so they were.
Has he said that?
Pushing very hard.
Did he say this is his last time?
Well, he says every time that
then the next question is,
if he does
do you believe him? Sorry, go ahead.
Well, it's always the same thing, I really I have that hunger still, so I'm going to go and try to do it again as long as I have Hugo Boss's support, and hopefully he can find it in his willpower to do it again, and with the support of Hugo Boss, and if not, well then it's been an amazing run, and he's done amazing things for the sport of sailing and offshore racing in general all around the world with a massive audience, and more power to him, and good luck for whatever he's doing next.
Ryan, as we record this Tuesday morning, my time, it's now almost 1800 UTC, it's almost 1900 now in France and Antibes, where you are. Are you watching your WhatsApp with Boris Herman on Hugo Boss, and can you give us any update? As he's presumably resumed racing, and has he had anything to say about all this?
Yeah, he resumed racing at 3:20 this morning and has been going, and he is just as relieved as any of us to see Kevin Escoffier in Jean Le Cam's boat. That's the only thing that matters to any of us at this point. And yeah, I'm in WhatsApp contact with Boris regularly. I mean, I spoke to him yesterday morning. Spoke to him 3 days ago for 20 minutes, and he's on the WhatsApp group with us talking about all kinds of different things. It's a release for these guys, because when they're out there sailing on their own, otherwise they have nothing to do socially at all, and so it probably changes the mental challenge of the race a little bit. But at the same time, as complicated as everything has become with the boats, and also as demanding as everything has become on the sponsorship side and all the rest of it, it's a nice way to be able to communicate, and so yeah, we've exchanged text today for sure, and he's just concentrating on getting it done, concentrating on keeping his boat in one piece, and just super thankful, like everyone, that Kevin Escoffier is alive today, basically.
All of our FOSI, our friends with Sailing Illustrated, we've been following the race since before it started. 4 weeks ago now? Was it 3 weeks ago Sunday?
22 days, yeah.
Yeah, this is day 20, I think 3 now, 22 or 23. Yep. But we've been following it. It is is arguably the most difficult, most intense yacht race today. I mean, we can talk about the America's Cup, we can talk about the ocean race, and a few other things, but it's an amazing kind of combination of a marathon and a mountain climbing expedition, alone, en solitaire, as you say in French, en solitaire, around the world alone, nonstop. So it's an amazing race. Clarify for us, if you would, what the rules. I mean, you're obviously communicating by WhatsApp, but you can't give any advice, any racing advice or any weather advice. Is that correct? What are the rules as far as outside assistance?
Those are the rules. Technical advice, we can give him whatever advice we want. Like, he had a little problem, and I drew him a little picture of how he should repair a rope that was broken on board and this kind of thing. And that's all well within the rules. You're absolutely not to talk about strategy. You're absolutely not to talk about the weather. And people don't. The guys who are competitors in this race, they're all experts at navigation, experts at meteorology. They don't need the help, first of all. You're not there with them, so you don't really see what's going on. And if somebody wanted to do that kind of thing, they'd be doing it with somebody who was a little more qualified than I am. Let's put it that way.
Well, I doubt that, but there's a whole lot of very bright people on these teams, but you can't tell them about sail selection, about routing, about weather. They're getting their own grid files off public sources, right? And they can use those and put those into their computer.
Correct. Yeah. And there's no the thing of it is that grid files in reality, while they may be similar, are not exact, and so giving advice about sail selection and all that is not really possible. When you hear about these, like the big multi-hulls, when they do the route to Rome with in solitaire, they have a weather router, but they're in constant communication. They're on the telephone with the weather router every 20 minutes throughout the race, simply so that they can reconcile the weather router's computer-driven picture with what reality actually is, whereas we're not doing any of that. I mean, the rules have been the rules for the Vendee Globe forever, and when you have the mindset to go and do the Vendee Globe, and then you get through the entire all the trials and tribulations leading up to it, starting with finding a sponsor to do it, building a boat, preparing that boat, and all the rest of it. You're somebody who has already a very broad skill set, and two, a mentality of getting things done on your own, and generally plenty of pride. And the people that are getting weather routing advice during the Vendee Globe are few and far between, and they're certainly not the people at the front of the fleet.
Ryan, before we let you go, I know you've got to probably get to dinner on Team in France, where you are. 33 entries, and now the attrition, 4? Mast, Alex, Kevin Escoffier. Is there one other boat, or just those 3 that have dropped out?
Well, I think that's it for dropouts. There's been a lot of problems, but people have managed to have managed in general to do a bit more repair work this time than in years past, I feel like.
So we're down to what, 30 boats, and of those 30, the 6 women who started are all still racing. Tell us about Samantha Davies or any of the other women, because it's an amazing achievement, not only for them personally, but for the sport.
Yeah, it is six women out of 33 is a very, very good percentage. I don't think it's been close to that ever. Years ago you had 1 or 2 women who were doing it at a time. Six right now is a great number. Only one of which, though, who is fully funded and with a current generation boat, if you want to even call it that, because it's not really, but a boat that has nice foils and has been optimized to the current rule, in Sam Davies. And I know Sam quite well. We lived close to each other when I was living in Brittany, and she's a very, very, very capable sailor, as we've all seen in Vendee Globe's past, plus her performance with SCA in the Volvo and everything else. And you couldn't find someone better to represent women's sailing, insofar as she's not flying the flag for it, rah women's sailing, but she's just getting out there and doing it on equal footing with the men without any trouble at all. And that's the amazing thing about sailing, is that offshore sailing in any case, I mean, the America's Cup with grinding is not the same thing, but offshore sailing is a discipline where there's absolutely no reason why a woman can't compete with the men. You have her, and actually you have Isabelle Joschke as well, who's got a very nice boat with the same foils that we have in Boris's boat, actually, and she's doing quite well also. Not to mention all the other ladies who are involved. They all are extremely good sailors in their own right, and they've all gone through the same process that I was talking about earlier, of having to find a sponsor, having to get a boat, having to put their campaign together, and they have just as much pride in what they're doing as all these guys do as well. And for sure, it is a media coup to have a beautiful woman who's out competing against the men, and I think we're only going to see more of it.
And her husband.
And her husband.
Great stuff.
The only couple in offshore sailing.
Ryan, can we get you back on the show in less than a year, maybe in a few weeks, as this thing sorts through the Southern Ocean? And what's the record? Is 74 days and change? What do you?
74 days and change, yeah.
Do you expect a record-breaking performance by one or another of the leading teams?
I would hope so, yeah. I mean, there's no reason why they shouldn't. I mean, these foiling boats, if they ever get any flat water, they should be extremely, extremely quick. Boats, these boats in flat water will do 10 knots quicker than the breeze reaching. So if they ever, like I say, if they ever get some flat water, they're going to be very, very quick. So yeah, I expect the record to fall. I don't know by how much. And absolutely, we can talk again when you're ready. Why don't we think about talking as these guys are going past Australia, or as they get out into the Pacific Ocean, for example?
You got a deal. Let's we'll call it the Cape Lewin update, when they're getting
Perfect.
off the
Cape Horn, Cape Lewin.
Cape Horn. Yeah, when they get because that's quite an interesting and treacherous stretch, obviously, from Cape Lewin, which is the southwest corner of Australia. Have you been to Cape Lewin? I actually went down there during the Cup, back when the Cup was in Perth in the 80s.
No, I've never been there. I've been to Sydney and the eastern coast of Australia, but never to the west coast of Australia.
If you get out there to the west, get out to WA, Western Australia, I commend it to you. It's quite a beautiful and interesting sight to go down to the tip of Cape Lewin and see where the Southern Ocean meets the Indian Ocean. Thank you, Ryan Breymaier. Thank you very much indeed. And let's talk in a couple weeks when they get there.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, Tom. Speak to you soon.
Ciao. Bye. Okay, Julia, so what'd you think of that?
Oh, I think he is terrific and really good at making cogent comments and personal comments that make the whole thing very much alive.
I thought it was one of the most revealing interviews we've ever had.
Oh, yes, it was good.
Here we are, less than 24. Well, this was just now happening 24 hours ago. that the boat broke up, and that Mr. Escoffier, Kevin Escoffier's boat broke up, and then he was rescued not too many hours later, in the middle of there. It's 2150, almost 2200 UTC, and this took place in the middle of last night, so less than 24 hours from now ago that the rescue took place. And here we are hearing a full on, and there's lots of other information that we haven't included, but I really appreciate the second hand, really. But he's read through all the interviews, and he knew a lot more, including especially that what I had been hearing. And Lance Burke had from St. Francis had texted me this morning, say, hey, I hear that maybe this Navy ship, the French Navy ships, is where they're going to offload.
Yeah.
That's not the wrong word. That's
and that turned out to be right.
Well, and the other thing, there was some discussion about whether Alex Thompson on Hugo Boss would somehow meet and take Kevin Escoffier off Jean Lecomte's boat and take him into Cape Town. But they're way south. I mean, look at this map. This was from a few hours ago, the tracking map, and I don't have the website teed up. I guess I could go to it, but you can see they are, if we go to the Cam 4 here, this is this action right in here, and they're way south and a little west. The leader, Charlie Dallin, is already past the Cape, and number 2, linked out, Thomas Rouillant, is in second place, about 217 nautical miles astern. When I took that graphic, did a screen grab some hours, 3 hours ago, no, 2 hours, not that long ago. And that will get updated. When's the next update? At 21. So they should have updated it now, in fact. I could go take a look on the website. Maybe I will when we're doing an America's Cup video, and then go back to see if anything's changed. But the leader remains with a 200-plus nautical mile lead. Last I looked, Charlie Dallin from France in a Pivia, and he continues to lead. And then there was this sad news, as we've all known, that Alex Thompson had to drop out, and he did this almost tearful video that was I found on the Vendee Globe website just before we went to here. Have a look.
Hello, everybody. Well, it's taken me a few days to digest what's happened, gather my thoughts before I felt able to speak to you. I'm normally a very positive person, but if I'm honest right now, I feel pretty broken. You know, for the best part of 20 years, this race has been my goal. You know, we've come so close before, and this time I really thought it was possible. I have the boat of my dreams. We've put together a campaign I'm extremely proud of, and despite the setbacks of the last week, I still thought it was possible to win, or at the very least finish. I've given my life to this sport, and it's a very difficult pill to swallow. So many people have supported me along the way, and I can tell you, picking up the telephone to deliver the news, well, it's just heartbreaking. This sport, this race is just so tough. Things could change so quickly, but that's the beauty of it, and it's so challenging, and that's why I've given a large part of my life to it. The messages of support from the fans have been incredible. I really don't feel worthy, but also from the other skippers and the teams, your words have really touched me. I sincerely hope you all make it safely to the finish. But for now, I need to concentrate on taking this beautiful boat home, getting out of Cape Town safely, and there I'll officially retire from the race. And the last thing I need to say is to say thank you to everybody who supported me. To my team, thank you for your dedication and your hard work. I know you couldn't have done more. But thank you also to our partners. You've worked tirelessly with us, and you've shown such dedication, such loyalty, and I can't thank you enough. I couldn't quite make history this time round, but I can tell you, I gave it everything I got.
He's a bit snake bit, like the PRB sponsor, and he's had a string of of bad
Yeah.
luck in
What-
the various races.
I don't remember what happened to his boat.
Well, the structural problem has continued.
Oh, okay.
The
Yeah.
thing that he thought he had fixed. Now,
Yes.
I've gone back live to the tracker here,
Mm.
and if you see my cursor there pops up, that is him. Alex Thompson and Hugo Boss. He's now turned up to the northeast, so he's going to head up here to
Cape Town.
Cape Town. I'll zoom that in a bit, I guess. There's the zooming sticks over here. So there he is, and he's turned to the northeast. And there's your leader, Charlie Delan, and Apivia, with a good lead. And the runner-up second place boat, Thomas Ruyant and Linked Out, is distance to the leader, 223 nautical miles, 413 kilometers. And they're launched into the Roaring Foyle, as most of the fleet is now that's down here. Here is Louis Burton, who's in third, in Bureau Vallée 2. And we'll see what transpires. And here's where this is Boris Herman on Yacht Club de Monaco's boat, Sea Explorer. And yes, we Jean Lecombe, after they did their little rescuing effort. So full marks to them, Bravo Zulu. And really Bravo Zulu, I think, to Alex Thompson, too, because as we said, he is such a great, great ambassador for the sport. Sad to see him out of the race. But, maybe, Julia, maybe he will be back. It didn't sound like a resignation speech to me.
No, but he needs a bit of a big dose of optimism and hope.
Well, and some time off maybe.
Yeah.
Because it's a huge, you raise the money and build the boat, and you're a pre-race favorite.
Yeah.
And then you're out. So it's a huge disappointment, needless to say. Again, I commend to you the Vendee Globe YouTube page, and there are sorry to repeat from before, but if you look at the red ones are updates in English and in French that come out every few hours, that stream live every few hours. And then there are the videos. This is Sam Davies, who came off I don't know when I grabbed this. This is probably a couple hours screen grab. But Sam Davies and each of the boats, as we said, it's a fire hose of information that's coming off the boats, but organized, nicely thought out. And I'm very impressed with everything that this race is doing, as you would expect from the French, right?
Indeed.
The leaders in offshore racing.
They are.
Globally, the global leaders.
Yes.
All righty. YouTube/Vendee Globe TV. Let's get to the comments now, Julie, because there are so many in that long interview. And thanks again to Ryan Braymeyer for joining me this morning. Earlier, we recorded that about 9 a.m., so about 5 hours ago, I guess it was. A good point here, well, lots of good points. Dogzilla is saying, Jean is a freaking hero indeed. Yachty 4000, this is incredible. Don't forget the race organizers in the praise. And I absolutely, because the race direction, it sounds like the coordination, the crisp decision to get the other three boats to join Jean Lecombe. And thank goodness Jean was able to get him aboard, found him, and then refound him, and then got him aboard. It's unbelievable. Now, Brian Daneman is saying, just played the e-sailing in the yacht club with 24 junior sailors. I hear that the Vendee Globe virtual regatta is getting upwards to 1 million players.
Oh, that's terrific.
Not just views. So that's great.
Yeah.
And oops, got to go. Keep safe, people. Have fun. Gordon Smith, okay. The issue is you need to have a channel to use your own name to, okay, you guys are talking about the comment. At night,
VPN.
Someone could hit the life raft. Well, he was directed. I think part of what you heard and why the Bravo Zulu should go out to the race organizers too, they had I think the race organizers had a pretty good idea of where Kevin Escoffier's boat went down, and whatever signaling there is off the EPIRB or the personal, the personal AIS isn't very good, especially down below the wave tops. But they were able to help direct Jean LeCom back to the rescue point, and there they were. There he was. So amazing. What else, Julia? There's a lot of about IDs and so busy lady again.
The president of PRB, Kevin, apologized for losing the boat. The response was, "Doesn't matter. It's only a thing." PRB gets it.
Yeah. Exactly.
John Emmett says, "I think Jean will be the Seahorse Sailor of the Month,
if not more."
Yes.
Amazing good news. Yes, it is hard to believe he survived. An awful lot could have gone even worse. That's for sure.
Yes.
Isn't the prop on a sail drive not far behind the keel? I don't know, Fog Machine, what that's all about. Wow, there's wows from Clark Chapin and Steve Atkins. It's just, you need to be mentally strong to do this kind of race, no doubt. Fantastic stuff. Yeah, Steve Atkins saying the USA certainly identified with Alex. Sad loss for us too. Monica Diaz, who's normally in France. What's BWR mean, I wonder? Bravo. I don't know what that means, Monica, but thanks for joining us. Monica worked to find the link and has been able to join us. That was good. Worth listening to his interview with Shirley Robertson on her great podcast. Yes, I think you mean Alex Thompson and Andrew Pindow. That's for sure true. Also great that Shirley will be covering the AC. Also good news. And of course, it's podcasts. A couple of you said, well, podcasts, there's more information and the interviews are, well, it is. It's not live. And it's easy to record somebody over 2 hours and then spend a couple, 3 hours in what we call post-production, in post, editing, slicing and dicing and getting just the comments you want and cutting out the does and the ers and the us and the okays, and as I say all the time. Live's a lot, I hope you find it not enthralling, but I hope you find the live is compelling.
Yes.
As opposed to, because more and more people are trying to do live rather than just doing YouTube videos and Facebook videos. But Shirley Robertson is terrific, and it's great she is doing the Cup as well as Peter Lester and some others. Any predictions about more breakages heading between the Cape of Good Hope and Australia? Yikes, the foil loads on some of them must be extreme. Well, I tried to get Ryan Breymaier to comment, Julia, about that. I think I told you just as we were getting ready to go for this show. And I didn't want to push him on it because he doesn't want to say things that are maybe a little bit out of school. We just want to celebrate the rescue at this point. But there's no doubt that the rigs, which are one design, were built for the previous edition of these boats, and not the semi-foilers, not the flying boats, as France 24 Television called them. And they are flying. I mean, and then the other, I thought, interesting observation was that, they're up on a foil and the bow's up, and when they're crashing into the waves, it's the stern that's doing a lot of crashing. Here,
yeah,
Ryan
that's right.
Talk
yeah.
about that. So it was an interesting. Please get Ryan back. He is super. No surprise he's working with Boris. Thanks, Fog Machine. I agree. Thank you, Ryan. Everybody saying nice interview. Agreed. Very good interview. Southern Ocean Highway. Yo, hell. Ryan was great. Thanks. My late father once lost a rig in the Cape Town to Rio race late one night in the late 70s. Now, this is Dogzilla Monster Stingray, who, remember, he grew up, I spent part of his youth.
Yeah.
Not checkered youth, but his youth in Cape Town in South Africa.
Yeah, he said that.
And he's up in Seattle now. He doesn't want us to use his real name. Well, that's okay. We won't use his real name. They jury rigged the job and made it to the Skeleton Coast 10 days later. This is back on the father in the Cape Town Rio race. We had no communication for these. Julie, you talked about being a racer chaser and going to the port where you were expecting the sailors, and it's just amazing to have all this modern communication.
Oh, it is.
What was the extent of the communication you'd hear from the boat when you were waiting for it?
Nothing. There was a check in maybe with a radio check in someplace that if you were clever you could get, but you didn't really know anything for days and weeks at a time. Sometime.
Yeah, about the same lead now for. Let's go back here and look at the chart. Was it 200 and I said 217 nautical miles when I looked at it 5 hours ago, and now this is about an hour old. It's an hour and 8 minutes old, and Charlie Dallin has a lead of. I guess I could switch to that. Has a lead distance to leader 223 nautical miles, which hasn't, well, as I said, that's from an hour ago. They take it every, 4 hours. Next one is at 0400, is it? Okay, we'll keep following it. This will go on for quite a few more weeks, and it will be nice to hopefully have Ryan back on, Ryan Breymaier. Yes, Hugo Boss, it was the rudder that did Hugo Boss in. And you just wonder structurally if these boats are up to this new foiling loads. And let's hope that we don't see, although it's, and I asked Ryan about it, what he thought of the America's Cup boats. He said, I don't think we did that in the interview. He said, I'm pretty impressed with how well those boats are being sailed and how well they are sailing. You know, we're going to look at some videos here in a sec, the latest videos. They hit a massive wave too. That is Hugo Boss.
Yeah.
Do you remember which sponsor won the Vendee Globe in 2012? Kilo 5 is asking. Now, I know who Kilo 5 is, but he also doesn't want to be. Yeah. You know him too.
But I don't know.
You don't know who he is.
No.
You do know Hugo Boss no matter what. Yes. Good point. Is that Hugo Boss and Alex Thompson have done such a good job with that sponsorship. And I know you Anglos like to say Hugo Boss, but having lived in Germany for 8 years and had Hugo Boss as a sponsor of the McLaren F1 team, we all learned to pronounce it the way the Germans do, Hugo Boss. And speaking of F1, I didn't put any of the pictures in, and the horrific crash.
Oh yeah.
From the race in Bahrain on Sunday.
Yeah.
And just astonishing to see that Mr. Grosjean survived that fiery wreck. And what a learning. All I could say is to the late Dr. Sid Watkins, whom I knew in my time, and what he had done in Bernie Ecclestone and others to increase the safety of F1, and especially the halo, which wraps around the drivers. Now there's this big carbon with a strut down, which a lot of people criticize, including this guy Grosjean, who was critical of the halo. It's not Formula One, and we got to be macho, and I can't see as well. Well, it saved his life, because he would have been, sorry to say it, he would have been decapitated when his car went through that guardrail.
Yeah.
So that was okay. We digress, but then we're good at that on this show.
Flying Hull said, I'm beginning to wonder if it isn't simply a matter of predictable engineering loads, but rather the effect of vibration over time.
Vibration as opposed to crashing. That's an interesting question.
If you heard the sound generated by Hugo Boss when Alex let us listen to it, there's a lot of vibration in addition to the pounding.
Good points. Tom did a fix on the structure, then a rudder. Yeah, Tom, I think he means Alex did a fix on the structure, then the rudder broke, and that did it. Yeah. Will Hugo Boss boat race the next ocean race? Well, who knows if any of these boats will. There has not been so far, Monica, as you probably know, not much uptake by the IMOCAs, which would be fully crewed as opposed to single or double-handed, although I guess they could race, I think, double-handed under the rules, but we'll see. That's a good question. I really hope Hugo Boss will be in the next race. It seems that Boris Herman is only about 12 nautical miles from Jean Lecombe. Yes, they were back both in the same area searching and given search patterns by race direction. Again, bravo Zulu to the race direction, no question.
Yes.
The issue is with the rudder. Yet normally I'll have something funny or smart to say, but all I've got is wow. Thanks, Jody Shields. Nice to see you on. Clark Chapin, based upon Ryan's comment, maybe it would be a good idea to require that the engine on each boat be started at least briefly every few days.
That's probably a very good idea.
That from the automotive engineer,
Yeah, I know.
Clark Chapin, who knows
Yes.
about starting engine. It puts some context about the incredible strength and overall performance of the Volvo 65s. Good point, Andrew Pindar. And hopefully it puts some context into hopefully what we're going to see with the AC 75s. Any others, Julia? Yeah, Barcelona World Race. Thanks, Andrew Pindar. Yeah, BWR. Okay.
Oh,
Not
that's
only
good.
that was that back in 2000. Did that happen more than once? It happened in what, 2002? Cam Lewis and did that? It was scheduled to go again, and then did it actually go more than once? Somebody will know that. What else? Monica's in Spain, not France. Yeah, I think I said that. Did I say she was in France? I knew she was in Spain. Yes, amazing. Lacombe saw the light visually, not the PLB signal. Technology helps, but seamanship trumps it. Fog machine is saying. I met Ryan years ago when he won the BWR. That's what Monica's saying. Yes, I am. Okay, agreed. Fog, incredible. Okay, just did pop out chat on computer on second. Glad I'm very pleased with this. Yeah, you can pop out the chat on the YouTube. The Halo is one piece of titanium. Thank you, Fog Machine. We're gonna get Fog Machine on here. He seems exceedingly knowledgeable.
Yes.
I'm not surprised that there's a lot of vibration. Yeah, Clark Chapin. Dr. Watkins' son Alistair is involved in sailing and other sponsorship, including for Emirates Team New Zealand and the Prada Cup Small World. Andrew Pindar is saying. Dr. Sid Watkins was what a great guy. He died at what, 2012?
I don't know.
8 years ago, actually. He Andrew, it's interesting you should say that, because when I was on track and I had my own motorhome because I was running the title sponsorship for what was then the West McLaren Mercedes team, and Dr. Watkins, Sid, or Prof as we all called him, he was professor, doctor, he taught it at a school in New York, like one of the SUNY colleges in New York or something for a while, visiting professor, I'm not sure which, but interesting story about Sid Watkins. But I knew he had a connection to sailing, but I wasn't quite sure what it was. He never really talked about it, but he'd come into my motorhome because I was known on track as, well, not only one of the only Americans in Formula One, but
the sailing guy.
The sailing guy. So he'd come by and they'd want to talk about sailing. And Bernie Ecclestone, who was was a fellow co-founding member of the Gestad Yacht Club. Did you know that? Bernie Ecclestone. In fact, he said, we got to found this yacht club. Then we got to have an annual regatta. Tom, we have to have an annual regatta in an arm of the sea. We do, Bernie? He said, yes, in case we ever want to do an America's Cup challenge. Bernie, Gestad Yacht Club, we don't want to, it's too expensive. And probably, ironically, Gestad Yacht Club's probably has the wealthiest membership roll.
I know.
Of
Good.
any yacht club in the world. What a great club that is.
Yes.
Julia, shall we move on?
Yes.
Philo Roland has found us. Hello, Philo. Actually, IMOCAs do switch their engine on every day for electricity. Yeah, but that's what Ryan Breymaier, and I think what Clark Chapin's responding to. Ryan is saying that in these days, did he say they have hydrogen generators on the boat for electricity? Obviously they have solar, and he said solar, but then did he say they have hydrogen generators for electricity, and therefore they don't always switch on, or don't often, he said, switch on their engines? And Ryan Breymaier speculated that maybe the engine had not been switched on
for a while
on John Lacombe's boat since the start of the race.
Yeah, that's right. He said that.
That's what he said. So, Philo, I don't know.
They have hydro generators, says Fog Machine.
He does.
Yeah.
Okay. They have hydrogen. Okay, good. That's what I thought I heard him say. Interesting. Okay, just one other ocean racing note. In the Trophy Jules Verne, Thomas Coville on Sobido is back on record pace after having a slow transit across the equator. And they are, in a match race with our other French friends. After 5 days and 9 hours, Thomas Coville and his team passed the equator yesterday. The the first milestone of their record attempt. The crossing of the intertropical convergence zone slowed down the pace considerably during the 24 hours, but now in the southern trade winds, the maxi trimaran Sotaba is making great progress again and had a 73-mile lead this morning. And that, of course, is this lead over IDEC Sport, which is being sailed by, among others, Franck Camas, with whom I've done an America's Cup campaign. Arguably, certainly one of the top sailors in the world. So bravo Zulu to that. Well, bravo Zulu. Good progress. We're happy to see that, and we'll follow that to see at some point those two boats will pass the Imoca fleet, presumably going across the Southern Ocean, and that should be interesting as well. This day in history, just a brief one because this is a long show with Vendee and the America's Cup. Do you know what happened on this day in history in 1913?
No.
Here's your first clue.
Is that the Mercedes going for a drive?
No. That is in 19. Your first clue is a 1910
a Model T.
Model T that was sold for $850.
Wow.
Not quite a chicken in every pot, but it was a little bit before that. But it was the idea that a salary man, a working man or woman, could afford one of these cars, and you could have it in any color as long as it was
black.
Black.
I know. I love that.
So that's only a clue, though, as to what happened in this day in history. There's another clue.
Well, manufacturing.
It's manufacturing. This, on December 1st of 1913, was the world's first
moving assembly
line was introduced by Fomoco, as Clark Chapin and others in my home state of Michigan would know, the Ford Motor Company. The first moving assembly line was introduced and started up and showcased on this day, December 1st, in 1913. And, of course, that's led to a whole lot of amazing things, and others probably were about to do or doing the same thing, but Ford gets credit for it, Henry Ford. And let's get into the America's Cup, unless there's any pressing comments, Julia. Yeah, there is a hydrogenerator. Is it a desalinator? They use a Watt and C hydrogenerator, which is a propeller dragging off the transom, one on each side. So it's not hydrogen,
but hydro.
It's a hydro generator. Okay. Is that required? Does everybody have to carry that so they have the same amount of drag? Anyway, great show once more. Thanks, Tom, very much. Thanks, Philo Roland. Gitana turned for home on the Jules Verne. Did they, Yarvahe? Did they? I don't know. I hadn't heard that. 1990, the two halves of the Channel connect on this day. The Yacht Club of Evil says, okay. Is that facility the boatyard where Ineos got? We're going to talk about Ineos in a sec. I read a book by Charlie Sorensen, this is Clark Chapin, Henry Ford's right-hand man, about how they prototyped the moving assembly line by having somebody drag the chassis from station to station. Well, I think, Clark, they did that anyway before there was actually mechanical movement, but they pulled the cars around by hand, of course. Right? But the idea that they started moving the cars to the stations where the workers and the parts were, rather than having the car sit there and people would move to it and do their thing.
Yeah.
I must say that one of the most interesting things I've done in the last handful of years was to visit the factory down in Fremont.
Oh, yeah.
For the Tesla.
Teslas, yeah.
And obviously not only the assembly lines and the overhead assembly lines, but the robots.
Yeah.
The robotic car.
Amazing.
Okay. Fog machine. Yes, Gitana damaged a foil. Not required, but very efficient. So they all seem to have them. Watt and C make several models with props optimized for different. Thank you, Fog Machine. Much appreciated. A wealth of knowledge.
Yes.
From that lady or gentleman. We'll check out who Fog Machine is.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to the American. I won't call it. Julia hates it when I call it the American Cup boat race, but that's what the non-sailors used to, maybe still do call it. Most interesting segment. Thanks, Daniel Grin. Here's a video by our esteemed friend, the latest video from Gilles Martin Raget. Enjoy this. Up, there's more. Okay, I guess that's that is it from Gilles Martin Raget.
I love his stuff.
And I mean, wonderful stuff, eh?
Yes.
And he is, needless to say, a real artist, and he's got just beautiful music and cutting to the music. I hope that's all rights-free music.
I do too.
Otherwise, we'll get a copyright strike from YouTube. But he assures me it is. I've been in touch with him regularly, and the others down there who are sending us videos, which we do appreciate, including this next one, which is from the British team. And then we'll come back. We got a lot of comments, and they're obviously doing mark rounding they're practicing for this regatta, which starts now in what 16 days, so just a little over 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So have a look now at this video, courtesy of Ineos Team UK.
Oh, green.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there is no second, and that's the British boat. That is obviously a canned video. It's a produced video from their team. All the teams are doing terrific stuff, great videos. And I'd hoped to have Luca Devoti. We advertised Luca Devoti on here to give some analysis and his views. Luca has predicted the winner of every cup since 07. And maybe before that. And Luca, of course, was head of the Plus 39 syndicate in Valencia 07. And, he was a Finn silver medalist. And I don't know what's happened to him. He was going to come on the show. We talked about it and teed it up. But he's obviously, I hope he hasn't forgotten. I hope he has forgotten. I hope he hasn't had some kind of a problem.
Yes.
So we advertised Luca on today to do an America's Cup predictions and analysis, but maybe we'll get him Friday or sometime in the near future.
The next 5 minutes.
Well, I doubt he's going to come on now because it's 23, 29 in Europe. But here's the British boat. And Grant says, one of you said Grant's Grundle. This is Ben's Bulge. One hears this boat is not particularly quick. And I'm sorry for those of you who are supporters, but the word around the waterfront, in fact, so much so that even Richard Gladwell wrote about it in his latest America's Cup Rialto, saying that the word on the waterfront is that the Brits are looking for more boat speed. So again, I think this is probably more than the hull shapes. I think it more has to do with rig and particularly foils as to who's going how fast and who's getting launched the quickest, the whole foil, and obviously hull shape is.
Jody Shields says, I learned something very interesting yesterday. The teams only have one set of foils that they can measure in for the duration of the cup. So much pressure is on getting it right now. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I think we haven't seen New York out for the last few days. None of the videos from Gilles Martin, Roger, and the others show New York Yacht Club having been out for almost a week now. Maybe it's been a fewer days, maybe 4 or 5 days. But one hears that the Brit boat is not particularly quick. I also heard Jody Shields saying that Team American Magic are blowing up the outboards on their chase boats at an alarming rate, had to limp home with only 1 out of 4 motors the other day. And maybe that's part of the problem, why they've been on shore. But the Brit boat, we were all shocked and amazed when we saw it, and hopefully they will come good because we do want to see them all being quick.
It may have to do with airspeed. Wind speed.
Well, for sure it's going to be different for different. Exactly. We know that New York seems to be particularly good uprange. I keep hearing.
Yeah.
So we'll see how they're going. But here's another video. Have a look at this video. And it's, we'll comment it on the other side. In fact, we'll comment on it right now.
Yeah.
Obviously, ETNZ and Luna Rossa. Now, you can't take too much from this. You can't say, well, ETNZ's passing them because the perspective of the camera. However, it does look like in a straight line, and that they haven't exactly hooked up, but it does look like ETNZ is higher and faster. But you don't know because Prado may be sandbagging. They may be testing something else. They've got a bigger jib, it looks like, than ETNZ. But there's been a lot of mark rounding practice in the last few days, according to Richard Gladwell and others. And they all seem to be, particularly in the last couple, 3 days, been training in the same waters. So no doubt after this ARB panel ruling that says, well, if it's not, essentially, if it's not preordained, if it's not coordinated, if you're out in the same patch of water, well, that's okay. Consistently putting this early demise of Ben's team is ticking me off. Sorry, Daniel Green, I'm only telling you what I hear, and if I was hearing that about New York or ETNZ or anybody else, I would tell you, and I'm not saying I don't know, I'm just telling you what I'm hearing from multiple sources. I hope it's not true. And as John Emmett's saying, we will see very soon who is fast and who isn't, relatively speaking, because they are all fast. That's fair. Monica D is asking I wonder how close they will be able to get match racing. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Philo Roland saying, I like how the Kiwi foils seem to go in the water without much splashing. And they seem pretty clean here. And as you heard Britt Ward, if you haven't seen that show, go look at Britt Ward, who was on, a week ago? Was he on Friday or a week ago, last Tuesday?
I think it was
Tuesday. It was Tuesday. I think, yeah, we didn't have a guest Friday. As you can see how clean the water seems to be coming off the foil here on ETNZ. And you can also see, as Britt has pointed out, how there's a tack. Let's see this. How the foils are way outboard. And sometimes, you see the foil tip coming up out of the water, boat heel to windward, which is what you want, slightly. The boat right down the hull, Grant's Grundle, right down there doing the end plating right down against the water, the bulge. So, yeah, to my eye, ETNZ looks nimble, as one of you said, looks pretty good through the water. I think it says a Justin Mitchell video from memory. But look at that, buoy rounding. Britt Ward was a brilliant interview. Thank you, Dogzilla. Great and relevant interview on Sunday's Bar Karate podcast with American Magic's boat captain, Ty Lamond. Yeah, Ty's a great guy. Thanks, Andrew. That'll be the first race, ETNZ Luna Rosa. That's right. He thinks ETNZ is narrowly focused on various things, but is the most sophisticated boat so far. That is Ty Lamond. Well, again, you got to take everybody's comments, including mine, with a grain of salt, although I don't have anything... I don't have any axe to grind in this, as much as I probably would rather like to see New York win it and bring it back here and put the event back on more traditional feet. These boats are cool. What's this breaking news from the CDC, Julia? I don't want to talk about the cup. We're locked down here in San Francisco, and I don't want to think about COVID for a few more minutes until the show's over. We're not only now in a, what do you call it,
lockdown.
Well, no. We're not only
curfew
in a curfew, but we're also now in a lockdown. Can't go out. Non-essential businesses are closing. Okay, here's another, this time a jibe from ETNZ. And they do look nimble. They do look fit. There was a video of them exercising their foil arms at the dock, which was impressive. So I wonder what New York is up to, if any of you has an idea. Practice racing starts on the 8th. Andrew Dewhurst is saying the YouTube vids will be fascinating. Yes, indeed. So that's just in another week. Great guy, Tyson. Many years with ETNZ. Yeah, Tyson Lavin. Yeah, the practice racing also for the race committee, for the course marshals, for Ian Murray and co. Andrew, you see the comment here from Stingray asking for a link to that bar karate interview. It's a podcast as well. Sailing Swede. Hello, Sailing Swede. Prediction: if ETNZ wins, the Brain Trust will once again be lured away by a billionaire, leaving ETNZ with an 0-3 scenario all over again for AC 37. You heard it here first. I wonder who Sailing Swede is. I agree with John M. It was more interesting, but maybe we're getting more comments when people aren't having to use their real names. I don't know. If you want to use your real name, you can. Daniel Gruen is saying prediction: Ben is sandbagging.
Well, that could be.
Well, it could be, but in all my years, since 1980, so it's 40 years. Dennis Conner was the best mental. He played the best mental games of, I think, anybody, or among the best. Coots is pretty good at it too. But first of all, you need to show yourself how quick you are when you're out there and you get lined up. You don't want to just, because then you go back to shore and your team says, "Oh, that didn't look very good." Well, we were sandbagging. Yeah, were it really? And then your sponsors aren't quite sure, and the competitive juices start to flow, so people, start to go hard. The sandbagging thing, later on, you might see some sandbagging, and I think in this regatta coming up, you'll see some sandbagging from the quicker teams who quickly find out that they're quicker. So we'll see. Julie, anything else?
Not this instant.
Daniel Gruen, they have some tricks up their sleeve. If there is one team who is going to make big gains throughout the next 2 months, it will be the Brits. I hope so. Daniel is obviously a big fan. I hope that is true. And just a couple other photos here of this same action in the last couple days. These two teams also hooked up, and this is again where some of the intel is coming, that in the hookup between LRPP and Ineos Team UK, that LRPP had the, shall we say, upper hand in that exchange. This is one of the few photos from the last few days, and again, I think this is 4 or 5 days old, so I think New York must be in the shed and making some kind of mods, which, again, maybe they're changing foils, maybe they're changing, I don't know what they're doing. And, of course, Terry wouldn't tell me if I asked, or if he did, it would be under strictly confidential. And I would never break a comment. As far as I know, never have and tend not to. Ted Ryman, I agree with Daniel. Well, let's hope that all four that we don't have a repeat of 2013. Let's hope all four of these teams are competitive. That
Absolutely.
It's real hammer and tongs.
Yeah.
And great racing, and whoever you're cheering for, especially, is competitive.
Yeah.
Dogzilla saying
they aren't sandbagging yet. These AC 75s are so new that the sailors are sailing what they have as best they can. By the match, these boats will still not be fully optimized.
Yeah, well, that's true. And we saw that here in 2013. They were still learning, at least our guys were still learning how to sail and get foiling upwind, in particular, the AC 75, the BMW Oracle Racing AC 75s, and then managed to win the match coming from behind 8-1 and win at 9-8, as you all will remember. But who knows?
Yeah.
The other thing I should say that's interesting is that it's still not clear if all the teams, it's not clear that perhaps some of the teams are using, at least some of the time, computer control fly-by-wire, in effect, rather than
right now,
just to test systems, to see what the computer says is optimal, to see what the boat does when the computer is running it, as opposed to when a human is running it. Because, as you know, under the rules, the boat can't be controlled by computer. It can't be fly-by-wire. The computer can tell via some kind of display, and the Kiwis did this brilliantly in Bermuda 2017. They had a readout that just had dots on a readout, and it had next to it had another display, dots on the readout, and when the computer said it was on dot 2 or 3, the human being, the flight controller, would adjust his flight control so that his dot was on 2 or 3. So it was literally paint by not paint by dot. What do you call that? Paint by number.
By number, yeah.
Oh, we'll see. We shall see.
Yeah.
Probably sooner than later with that practice racing starting in a week's time. It's exciting. This is good. The format, we revealed that the other day after it was announced. We didn't reveal it. We covered it after it was announced. And on the 17th, I don't know if you can see this graphic really well, but on the I'll go over to camera 4 for a sec where you for sure can't see the graphic very well. But on the 17th of December is round robin racing. The 18th it continues, and the 19th it continues. So for 3 days of round robin racing, and each team races the other twice. And then, you see the first race on the 17th, as one of you pointed out, is ETNZ against LRPP. And then the next race is American Magic against Ineos Team UK. So those will be interesting races, needless to say. And at the end of those rounds robin, you go into this, what is a different regatta. It's now being called the Christmas Cup to satisfy the writing of the protocol. But the top 2 teams coming out of the round robin go into this knockout semifinals. And the bottom 2, Team A coming out of the rounds robin goes against Team D and B against C. And what I don't know is if the top team coming out of the rounds robin gets to choose which of the other 3 teams they race in the semis. That's the normal match racing America's Cup way of doing things. Mm. And if any of you knows, let us know. So that will be the semifinal alignment here, and then the winners go on to the finals. The losers, of course, go to the consolation bracket, and then you'll have the rankings 1, 2, 3, 4 coming out of that regatta, which doesn't mean anything for the defender, but for the challengers, that will seed then the challengers in a small way into their rounds robin racing in January and February for the Challenger Selection Series, aka the Prada Cup, the winner of which goes against the defender in the America's Cup match or the finals starting on Saturday, the 6th of March. So that is the format for the AC World Series Auckland, and for the Christmas Cup, actually the same regatta, but being called 2 different regattas to fulfill the requirements of the protocol, and all 4 teams will be racing. That's our AC 36 Cup date, unless, Julia, there's any pressing comments?
The whole thing of that none of the boats are racing in their regular on their cup configurations. And
maybe not.
It's and Jody Shields are still just blasting about the bay. And having said that, it would be a surprise if the fastest boat did not win.
Because the fastest boat has always won the America's Cup.
Daniel Gruen says, Jody Shields, you're dead wrong. This is all about blasting around the courses instead of match racing. I predict no match racing at all, just BMG sailing with these boats.
That's what Daniel Gruen is saying.
Yeah.
And the Blake Middleton cheers and apologies for a later arrival from newly frozen Lake Minnetonka up in Minnesota. Well, it's cold. It's winter. It's December 1st.
Yeah.
We used to skate on our lake in Michigan, play hockey sometimes Thanksgiving weekend, the last weekend of November. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be, I think, another race there'll be match racing. When there are 2 boats, there is by definition match racing. And you're not probably just going to let one boat go to the trailing boat go to one sideline, one boundary, and you just work your way up the track unless you are 100% confident in your speed and your strategy and your tactics. But we'll see. Wet Hog is, we as fans don't want the Product Cup to be another AC34 LVC, so hopefully the Brits figure things out. Well, let's hope maybe they are sandbagging. Let's hope they are fast already. But one hears, and I hear this from multiple sources, so let's hope they get up to speed. Dogzilla Monster, unlike iconic SF's wind machine in Bermuda's reasonably consistent bay winds. Well, okay. The Hauraki Gulf is a relative landmine wind pressure and direction-wise. True, and that's why I have the 5 different course areas, Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, and the 2 Echoes. Daniel Green, we need to send Tom to Auckland if the Brits are indeed slow. Just kidding. No, I'm not going to get them going faster. Augmented Reality Sailing Swede is saying, fog, no ice boating till it's safe, and it's just a thin layer on the lake today. No need about 4 inches before we get comfortable. Yeah, and you need I guess you must have had, Blake, we're talking about ice on a lake. We switched from Auckland to an ice on a lake in Minnesota. The lakes freeze when you have a really cold night with no wind. That's when they freeze the first time. And
there's a lot of snow up around there.
Well, and maybe not. Normally
Ohio had 3 feet or something.
This is Minnesota and Ohio are light year apart. I mean, that's a long ways apart.
I know.
And the other thing is the Great Lakes affect the water in the Great Lakes warm up the state of Michigan, the state of Ohio, and cause a lot more snow sometimes. Jody Shields. Daniel Green, last time I checked, it's a race, not just a drag race. The pressure of another boat on the course makes a big difference to mindset and tactics. Time will tell. I as you heard me say a moment ago, I agree with Jody, and I think there will be match racing. Maybe not the 12-meter style match racing in big, heavy, slow boats that go upwind and, the classic match race tactics we're used to seeing. I think what's going to be most interesting in the Christmas Cup, besides the relative speeds and maneuverability of the 4 boats, the starting tactics, and whether we just see the Amy Vanderbilt, which start, because this is an upwind start. We're back to upwind starts, not reaching starts like we had here in San Francisco and then in Bermuda. It's an upwind start, windward start, and I think you're going to see somebody, maybe all the teams, doing the so-called Amy Vanderbilt, the timed run away from the line, turn, and come back with a timed run straight into the line, and not a lot of fiddle farting around in the meantime. And then if a team that thinks they're slower, then will try to interdict, if that's the right word, intervene, maneuver against that other boat that's doing their Amy Vanderbilt, the Vanderbilt start. There was the difference, the difference between a Vanderbilt and an Amy Vanderbilt. Well, once we started forcing the boats into the pre-start box, which we started doing in about, 92-ish, was that the first cup? The boats then would normally go to the downwind middle of the starting line in the so-called starting box and start to circle and maneuver against each other. But if a team thought they were, A, they didn't want to risk getting a penalty, or B, thought they were quite a bit quicker, instead of doing the old 1930s style Vanderbilt start in the J-boats, which was to turn, sail away for, say, 2 minutes, minus 15 seconds for a tack, come back, and then sail the timed run to the start. That was the traditional classic Vanderbilt start. Then there was the Amy Vanderbilt, which was to come into the starting box, round whichever end you entered at, the committee boat or the pin end, and just sail away to get as far as possible from the other yacht, which maybe chased you down, probably did chase you down. Then you'd turn and come back, presumably on starboard tack. And of course, people figured out tactics against that to come in, get to leeward, luff, and so on. Okay, so Peter Adwan has just sent an attachment. Is that relevant? He's probably watching the show. I don't know if that's relevant to what we're talking about, but let's switch from that, and then we'll get into our final segment here, Julia. Unless there's anything else pressing. Do you see anything pressing, Julia?
Not yet.
Sangmeister is saying, nice interview to Ryan Braymeyer. And I want to thank John Sangmeister for helping tee that up.
Oh, did he?
Because Ryan's done, he's been an assistant to John in some of his ocean racing efforts.
Oh, nice.
And it's actually how I first met Ryan. So we appreciate John Sangmeister doing that. A couple other comments. The end of the world is visible from Lake Minnetonka, and it's a hilltop only 60 miles away, presumably toward Canada. Ventura, Ohio has a foot and rising lake effect. Okay, that's a foot of snow. Now, Mentor, Ohio is just east of Cleveland. And as I say, what happens in the Great Lakes in particular, having grown up there, the cold weather comes, and it is very cold now, comes across, and if it's got moisture in the air, it hits the lakes, and then it gets to the land, and it dumps the colder land, and it picks moisture up as it's coming across the lakes, west shore of the western shore of Michigan, the state of Michigan, the eastern shore of Lake Michigan, and of course around the southern shore of Lake Erie in Ontario and Buffalo, New York, in particular, gets dumped on when this weather systems come across, pick the moisture up out of the lakes, get to the cold land, and you get the lake effect snow. Mentor, Ohio, just east of Cleveland, is a foot and rising from lake effect snow. Remember, ETNZ was the only team to capsize in Bermuda. Maybe not so lucky if it happens again, Daniel. It's a lot of sports psychology involved. We showed that picture. In fact, Gilles Martin Raget took that picture that we showed here on the show a couple weeks ago when we gave Gilles he was very grateful for that Bravo Zulu.
Oh, was he? No,
Yeah.
well, he's fabulous. Yeah. And those pictures are just breathtaking.
Well, excuse me, and one of you said, hopefully, Carlo Berlanghi, he will be. I'm 100% sure Carlo will be there on behalf of the Challengers Record and Luna Rosa Prada Pirelli. He's been doing all of their photography. And I saw Stuart Struley, who is New York Yacht Club's comms director. I see he has shown up.
Oh, good.
In New Zealand as well. So no surprise, and that's good to see people filtering in for the Christmas Cup and more.
Where is Sailing Illustrated?
Well, we're going to be, I think, ensconced here
Yes.
in California, doing like we did with Bermuda.
Yeah.
Dogzilla, Blake Middleton is saying, I'm sure the end of the world is visible from my roof in Minnesota. Okay, enough of all that. Shall we get to this final segment, Julia?
Yes, yes.
And our Dub Whiskey Tango Foxtrot WTF segment. Thank you for your contributions to various people to this. And Julie, I showed you this. Did you send this to me?
Uh-huh.
And apropos, and thanks to all of you for your comments about me after being in Facebook jail for a month. And I'm not really sure why. It wasn't the copyright strike that we had when we did the watch party with World Sailing. That was a 3-day block.
Mm.
That then turned into a 30-day block, and I don't know why. And I know there's a lot of sensitivity around the election here and around other things. And I put up some pithy comments and articles and memes and get people thinking and talking. And I know some people take issue, left, right, and center. I was blocked for 30 days. I came good Sunday night, essentially the month of November.
Yeah.
And I have 5,000 Facebook friends, so Julia sent this to me. He had over 2,000 Facebook friends. I was expecting a bigger turnout.
Yes.
You got to admit, that was a funny one.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you to all of you who were worried and have said thank you for coming back. Now, here's a good one.
Yes.
You used to say, well, it's 5 o'clock somewhere, we can have a drink. Well, it's 2020 everywhere, so you can drink whenever you want.
Yes.
And this was the best.
Okay.
There's no truth to the rumor that this is out front here at the Beach Street Yacht Club. Although, if we had more space, Julia, we could do that from up here at the Beach Street Yacht Club and run a string of lights down to the sidewalk. Except they'd probably be stolen
Within a minute.
Within a minute, or stepped on, or crunched.
Yeah.
But you got to admit, had you seen this?
Yes.
Did you? Who'd this come from? Did you send this to?
I didn't, but the same person probably sent it to both
Martha
of us.
Peterson or somebody.
Yeah,
one of
yeah.
them. If any of you has suitable memes that you want us to run in this segment, we welcome them. Appreciate them very much indeed. Our 2020 segment, thanks to Dick Henderson for that. And I called Dick Henderson. Didn't we call Dick after the last show?
Yes.
And say, are you Fog Machine? He said, no, I'm not. I don't know who Fog Machine is. I love the name, though.
Yeah.
Okay. That's about it. Got blocked a lot for nudity before I got married. Steve Atkins says. Wet Hog came up with Grant's Grundle, but was there a slightly better Grendel? Possibility, Dogzilla. Grendel may have been a Norse dragon in a poem. Jabberwocky, maybe. I don't know. Grendel was like a troll. John Emmett is saying. I don't know. Grant's Grundle. We'll keep it Grundle because it's between. It's between his you know what and his you know on the bottom of that. Grant's Grant's Grundle may turn out to be the solution, maybe the fast thing.
Yeah, I think Grendel has been a woman's name too.
Has it? I've never heard Grendel myself, but so be it. I haven't heard a lot of things. That's it for 354, our show for Tuesday, the 1st of December. Thank you very much for joining us, Julia.
Oh, Grendel's from Beowulf. Fog Machine says.
It is.
Yeah.
This guy is on top of it.
I know.
Julia, your witness.
Yes, please like, share, subscribe.
Comments are always welcome. I don't know if we've got the comments fixed. Do subscribe. Get us over 1,000 subs, and a lot of good things will happen for us here. And that's, by the way, the subs are piling in.
Yes, thanks for that. There really are coming up.
Yeah, we're getting lots of subscribers, and the comments also help. Facebook notices how many comments we get. And the thumbs up. We're getting virtually 100% thumbs up. If there's something you don't like, give us a thumbs down. We appreciate that too. We appreciate the feedback. But their algorithm, which no one quite understands how it all works, which maybe is good too. Support us on Patreon, patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. We appreciate your support, especially in this holiday season. This is
yes.
Viewer-supported media. We have the odd sponsor, but not too many, and we appreciate it if you'll become a patron. And I keep saying this, we are going to list the patrons. I'm going to write to everybody who has joined us on Patreon and ask their permission and run an honor roll here at the end of the show of those who have joined us. And we do appreciate your support.
Unless they don't want to be.
Unless they don't want to be. If they don't want to be, remain anonymous, that's okay too. Cheers and happy Friday, Julie and Tom. Thanks, Blake Middleton. See you on Friday. It is Friday, right? Yes, we will be back on Friday. There are 41 watching and only 13 thumbs up. Come on, people. Thanks, Fog Machine. We appreciate that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Go sailing, of course. We hope to see you on Friday. In the meantime, have a great week. Ciao.